Now, not only are we spreading those feel-good vibes every morning, but we also like to encourage you to live the healthiest life possible. Have you ever stopped and given some thought into the amount of salt you consume on a daily basis? And too much of it can directly be linked to the world's #1 silent killer, hypertension or high blood pressure, as is known as well. And here to give us a bit of an eye-opener this morning is the lovely Andrea, together with Dr Vash Mungal-Singh, the CEO of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Good morning, ladies. Very nice to have you so early on a Monday morning.
Good morning.
Are we feeling good?
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Now, we are tackling quite a serious topic this morning. Dr. Vash, I'm going to start with you. What is the situation currently in South Africa in terms of the consumption of salt when it comes to the average South African?
Not good. Not good at all.
Simple answer, okay.
We, as South Africans, consume at least about 2 to 3 times as much salt that we should be having.
That much?
Yeah, absolutely. The World Health Organization recommends 5 grams a day. We are between 10 to 15 grams a day. So South Africa is one of those countries in the world that is consuming more salt than most other countries.
Why do you think that is, though?
Well, it's the type of foods that we eat. There's a lot of hidden salt in the foods that we buy, the processed foods that we buy. Bread is a big culprit. Cereals that we think are healthy but actually have a lot of salt. And we add salt at the table and when we're cooking. In fact, that's what we call discretionary salt. And we have between 4 to 5 times more discretionary salt than the Americans, for example. And that's what we're adding when we cook or at the table. So, you know, those are the culprits.
So besides for the hidden salts in the food already, we still add salt on top of that. So Andrea, maybe you can shed some light on this. What should people look out for or be aware of when they go shopping, or, you know, just to get into that mindset of, you know, just backing off on salt a little bit?
Well, if you look at food packaging, what you would want to look out for is the sodium content, because table salt is sodium chloride. So if you look at food labeling, they'll typically say how much sodium is in there.
Okay.
Now, it's difficult for the average consumer to try and calculate how much they've consumed already and how much they should consume. But an easy tip is to look at your food label of, let's say, a snack food or a breakfast cereal and compare the relative sodium content of one with the other. I mean, there are some of the breakfast cereals that are high fiber that contain as much sodium as chips do.
Wow.
And then there are some that are really low. Vital's original muesli, for instance, contains no added salt whatsoever. So it's made from oats and raisins, nuts, seeds, etc. And you'll clearly see, if you look at the label, if you look at the total sodium content, it's only 42 milligrams per 100 grams, which is really low.
Okay.
So that's one thing to do. But I think there's also great developments now with legislation forcing manufacturers to relook the sodium content of our foods.
So that is the one thing that people should look out for, is the sodium content. Maybe specifically, just as easy as looking at the label.
Yes.
Dr. Vash, from your side, the Heart and Stroke Foundation, what is being done to try and curb the consumption of too much salt?
Well, the Department of Health in South Africa has legislated.
Okay.
So that has already come into force. And the interesting thing about that is that we're the first country in the world that has legislated that will then force food producers to reduce the amount of salt in the food. So that's the first step. What we're doing as the foundation, together with, we will be supporting the Department of Health, and industry is supporting us as well, in that we will be driving a public awareness campaign. And so very soon the public will start seeing the messaging that comes out there about salt and high salt consumption and poor health.
What is the biggest tip that you could give to viewers out there when it comes to salt? Andrea said specifically looking at labels, the sodium content. But from your side, what would you say, why should people be aware of this?
Well, start, you know, with the easy thing, which is your salt shaker that's on the table, and get rid of it. And you'll find that you'll actually use less salt. You won't be tempted to add if it's not easily accessible. But the other thing is about looking at the labels and compare. You know, if you're buying a cereal, for example, look at your various brands and compare and choose the one with the lowest salt content.
Andrea, is there a healthy type of salt out there that people can rather opt for buying instead of your conventional, maybe table salt?
Absolutely. If you look at cooking, you'll be surprised how much flavor you can add to your food, because we add salt to bring out the flavor of food.
Yes.
So if you cook with things like onions, garlic, celery, tomatoes, you'll be surprised how little salt you need to add.
Really?
And then one thing many of us love is soy sauce. And no, typically soy sauce is packed with sodium or salt.
Yes.
There are also low salt variants. Vital has a reduced salt variant. This one has 60% less sodium.
Wow.
Compared to the original soy sauce. So your standard soy sauce compared to the reduced variant, and it's because they added flavor instead of salt, like garlic, ginger, and sesame, to rather add those flavors than add lots of salt to bring out the flavor.
So it goes about clever cooking.
Yes,
basically. And
that's right.
All right.
Oh, I forgot to mention also if you add lemon juice to cooking as well.
Lemon juice?
Yes, yes.
That will bring out a salty flavor?
Yes.
That's very interesting.
But coming back to your question, if
Yes.
I may.
Yes, of course.
You have different types of salt on the market, and people must not be misled because some are positioned as a healthier salt, and
Okay.
it's not true because it's about the sodium content. It's not about the source of the salt.
Exactly, and I think it's really in people's best interest to go out and do some research about this issue and just familiarizing themselves with it. Dr. Vash, thank you so much for joining us and just creating a little bit of awareness. Andrea, and also for your top tips here in terms of trying to get the salt consumption a little bit down lower. We want to be a healthy South African nation. Of course, we encourage it here on Expresso as well. So log on to our website, expressoshow.com, if you want to know more a little bit about this topic and see if you can actually use that little bit less salt on a daily basis. Right now, though, time for the buzz with Mr. Grant.
Subscribe to Vitalize magazine. From health tips to recipes, a fresh start is only a call away. Dial 0800 2233 112 to subscribe.